Hello. I'm here. Thank you guys all for being here today. I'm here to talk to you about herd. Okay. Oh, there, whoop, too far. Okay, you guys got a sneak peek. Okay, so what are we about? We are all about trying to build a better platform for democracy. And it's me and my partner Sam, who could not be here today, unfortunately, but we've been pioneering this project together over the course of the semester. So our mission at Herd is to basically produce a platform that can help ensure that everybody gets a voice in what kind of society we live in, no matter who they are, or where they're from, or how much time they have in their busy lives. And there's a couple of different problems that lead us to this state. So first of all, we all know that voting alone is super inexpressive, at least here in the United States. We have the option of two candidates, both of whom might not represent our values very well, but we don't really have any other options. And once we vote, we don't really have much say into what policies get enacted. Second to that, the town halls and the resources that we have to interact with existing politicians are also not that expressive. A town hall, you can go and show up, but you can only do that if you have a lot of time on your hands, or if you happen to be very wealthy. And so it's not a very representative way for us to get our concerns over to our leaders. And then finally, protests and petitions, which are the most traditional civic engagement tools, do not have the leverage they need to be able to influence policymaker decisions. It's very easy for politicians to ignore them. And what this ends up leading to is the wealthiest and most loud and angry voices taking over our political system. And everyday people who might have kids, might have jobs, don't get the chance to have their opinions heard. So what does this lead to? So we have this first problem of basically there not being a good system for communicating with our representatives. Then we have the second problem of that leading to people not being able to hold their representatives accountable. And what this eventually leads to is polarization, lack of trust in our government, and suffering social fabric. And this has led to the precipitous decline in a lot of what we would consider liberal democratic norms in the past couple decades. So what made us want to do something about this? So me and Sam as well, we've experienced the frustration that everyday citizens have gone through when trying to get their concerns to elected officials. We've tried sending letters to Congress, and we've received form responses. We've tried to set up meetings with our representatives, but obviously we cannot fly across the country for a 15-minute meeting with our senator. And at the same time, we've tried to get involved in local politics and influence things there. And that just hasn't worked out. We've seen how developer interests consistently overrule public sentiment on housing projects and other issues at the local level. So we decided to do something about that. And so you might ask, why do we need to do something separate? There's got to be so many people working on this problem, and there are. There are a bunch of different initiatives that have cropped up in the last 5 to 10 years that have tried to address this problem. But from what we have seen, nothing has stuck. And I'm sure that you guys can also have experienced that too. We don't have a solution to this problem. And why is that? We think there are 3 main issues. The most important of which being that most existing platforms out there don't give leaders a reason to listen to what citizens are saying. And to add to that, they present users and our everyday citizens with an overload of information that most people can't scroll through. And also don't provide citizens the initiative to allow them to do things themselves, rather than having to comment on bills that already exist, or government initiatives that already exist, instead of proposing something new. So we can take a look at how these existing attempts have failed. A couple of the most popular platforms at the moment that try to solve this problem are Causa.com, IssueVoter, and PopVox. Very bland names in my opinion, but they'll work. So as we can see, most of them don't really have this combination of being easy to use, being led by citizens instead of prescriptively led by the government, and giving those leaders an incentive to listen. And we think we can solve that. And so this is what our goal is. We want to create this quick, accessible, and nuanced platform that can give people a way to share their thoughts with leaders that gives those leaders a reason to listen to them instead of ignoring them. Now, how do we do this? So there's a couple key steps of the product that we're building. First of all, we're going to have a platform where citizens are able to submit 2 to 3 sentence viewpoints on public issues and community issues that represent their views. And they can share these viewpoints like a petition, and their friends and their family members can upvote them. In addition to that, simultaneously, we'll have leader votes and how those elected leaders are acting in those legislatures also being imported in our system, so that we know what leaders are doing on what bills. And then we'll combine the two together so we can create an index that measures how well each leader is actually representing the views of the constituents that we've accumulated on our platform. And we can develop this index so that it can be shared with journalists and campaigns, so that it becomes an electoral tool to give those leaders an incentive to actually improve their responsiveness to constituent opinion. And we think that this works in 3 ways. First of all, it gives citizens a direct path to impact. Citizens can now feel like their comments have a say in the world instead of just being lost in the void. In addition, it gives leaders who are good-natured and want to represent their constituents well a way to do so. They can now see what their constituents want and implement it and try to get their index higher. And at the same time, for leaders who are not very representatives, it gives the public a way out. It lets the public know when those representatives are being too different and too unaligned with their interests, and gives them a way to vote them out in the next election. And we think our platform in this way has a couple key features that make it extremely useful. So first of all, it's expressive. Instead of other platforms that only allow you to say a yes or no vote on other bills that already exist, we're allowing citizens to propose nuanced, free text responses. Second to this, we think it is really unbiased. Now, a lot of platforms don't try to, actively account for the difference between the users of that platform and the people in the real world who have real opinions. And we want to use statistics to make sure that this doesn't happen. We're going to statistically adjust the inputs that we get from constituents so it better represents the actual constituent body. And there are a couple more key points here. We think primarily that our platform is scalable. It's not something that you can implement at one level of government in one city. It's something that can be represented at all levels of government in multiple different jurisdictions. And we think that this is a really key point. And besides that, we want our platform to be constructive and convenient. And most of all, we want it to be somewhere where people can actually come together to produce a better world instead of just attacking each other online. And if we think a perfect training ground for this kind of program is USC. We have our own student elections, we have our own internal system of government, and we think it's a great way to try and make some progress on some of these issues and test what works. So we developed this app over the course of the semester, and here's a small preview of it, if you can see. So this initial screen shows the issues that people will see when they log into the app. You will see all of the bills that are happening in USG, in addition to issues that your fellow citizens and your fellow Trojans have proposed. And then you yourself, if you see an issue that you care about that is not on the platform yet, can propose one yourself. At the same time, once you click on an issue, you'll be able to submit your viewpoints on that issue instead of just looking at the issue itself. So on the right here, or on the left here, we can see different viewpoints that people have submitted on this particular issue from the USC community. Some of them are in favor of the issue that is represented, some of them are against it. And as a user, you can go and tap all the ones you agree with and flag the ones that you think are problematic. Now finally, you can submit this viewpoint, you can submit your own viewpoint that represents your own view if it doesn't align with any of the ones there. So you can upvote the ones that you agree with, but if you don't agree with any, you can submit your own that encapsulates your own nuanced view, and other people can then upvote it from there. And finally, the last part of this puzzle is our leaders. So with our Trojan leaders, we will be able to see, based on how they're voting on bills in USG legislature, and how our fellow Trojans have thought about those bills, we will be able to see what exact percentage of discrepancy there is between them. We'll be able to see how well each leader is aligning with the public. And we think that is the core part of our platform. So in the future, we tend to take this a couple ways. So at this semester, we're just building our MVP. We're trying to get an initial prototype out there. Eventually, next semester, we want to start working with USG and with advocacy groups on campus and the Daily Trojan to find better ways to engage elected officials and build a platform that works for everybody, not just one segment of the USC population. And eventually, we want to, long-term down the road, scale this up to other levels of government that are, real governments, like the city of LA, different congressional districts. We think that this platform, once we work out all the kinks at the local level within USG and see what works, we think can become truly remarkable for a global level. And that's our goal. Thank you guys so much.